All right, today we're going to decode the very architecture of survival on the modern battlefield. We're going to build a modern defensive position from the ground up, starting from the relative safety of the rear all the way to the frontline trench. So let's get into it. Now, take a look at this. It's easy to see just a concrete bunker, right? But what you're really looking at is the final hardened piece of a complex living system. And understanding that system, its layout, its logic, how it all flows together, is probably the single most important factor for a soldier's effectiveness, and more importantly, for their survival. So, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll talk about the overall concept, the architecture, if you will. Then we'll move through the battalion and company rear areas. From there, we'll zoom right into the platoon strong point, then down to the section's fighting position at the sharp end before we wrap it all up with why this map is your key to coming home. Okay, first things first, let's establish the blueprint. We're going to treat the defensive position not as some line in the sand, but as a piece of tactical architecture, something engineered for a very specific and very violent purpose. This right here is the core principle you have to understand. A modern defense is not a wall, it's a web. It's designed with depth, with positions that can all support each other. The whole thing is engineered to funnel an attacking enemy into pre-planned areas. And these areas have a very blunt name: fire sacks, or killing zones. They are exactly what they sound like, places where a defender plans to trap and destroy the enemy with a massive amount of interlocking fire. All right, let's start building our map. And we're going to begin deep in the rear. This is the logistical and command backbone that makes the whole fight possible. Let's build this out visually, piece by piece. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with the main supply route, the MSR. You should think of this as the main artery. It runs from way back in the support area, through the battalion's turf, and all the way up to the forward positions. All your logistics, ammo, food, water, they all move up this route. And all your casualties, they move back down it. It is literally the lifeblood of the position. Now, located well off that main artery, you'll find the battalion staging area. This is a big, concealed spot where troops and vehicles can get organized for things like refueling, regrouping, and final inspections before they push forward. It's always placed somewhere with maximum cover and concealment to protect it from enemy eyes and artillery. And that brings us to this number, over 3 kilometers. This distance isn't arbitrary, it's deliberate. It puts the staging area way behind what we call the forward edge of the battle area, or FIBA. This standoff is a critical safety buffer, a kind of tactical sweet spot that keeps that main concentration of troops and vehicles out of range of most enemy direct-fire weapons and their shorter-range artillery. So, as a unit moves forward from the staging area, it's going to hit something called a release point, or an RP. What is that? Well, think of it as a critical traffic control point. It's a specific, easy-to-find spot on the ground where a unit switches from a simple marching column into a full-on tactical formation. It's the formal handover from the logistics world to the tactical world. You see, occupying a defensive position isn't a free-for-all. It follows a very disciplined sequence that starts right at that release point. Troops arrive, they get their final orders, and they're guided to their sectors. If time allows, commanders will literally have their soldiers stand in their designated trench locations. Why? So everyone can visualize the layout, check their arcs of fire, and confirm the whole position before a single shovel ever hits the dirt. One of the very first things that gets established is a track plan. And listen, this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's a strict network of paths, often marked with tape or wire, that connects every single position. It has 2 main purposes. First, to make sure soldiers can move safely and quietly without wandering into friendly obstacles or getting lost. And second, it limits footprints, which makes it a lot harder for the enemy to figure out the layout and strength of your defense. Pushing a bit further forward, but still in the company's rear area, we find the company's Casualty Collection Point, or CCP. This is the central spot where casualties from the front line are brought. It's positioned to be accessible to ambulances, so the wounded can be stabilized and then moved rearward along that same vital MSR we drew at the very beginning. Okay, so quick recap of our rear area architecture. You've got logistics flowing up the MSR from the staging area, troops switching to combat mode at the release point, and casualties flowing back to the company CCP to get evacuated. Now let's push forward into the main battle area. We are now zooming right into the heart of the defense, the platoon strong point. You need to think of this as a self-contained defensive position. This is where the main fight is designed to go down. To really get the scale, think of a platoon strongpoint as a key building block. A whole company might be defending a frontage of up to 1.5 kilometers wide, but it does that by using these smaller, self-contained platoon positions, each one covering a sector up to 400 meters. These blocks just fit together to create the larger company defense. Smack in the center of that 150-meter depth, you will find the Platoon Command Post, or CP. This is the brains of the whole operation. It's usually made up of 2 trenches, one for the platoon commander and the radio operator, and another for the second-in-command and a runner. It's placed very deliberately so the commander can physically see their sections and, crucially, see the killing zone they're supposed to be covering. Located just a bit behind the command post, often tucked into dead ground to shield it from direct fire, is the platoon's own casualty collection point. When a soldier gets hit, this is the very first place they are taken off the line. Now, it's managed by the platoon's second-in-command, and that's a key tactical insight because it frees up the commander to keep fighting the battle. From here, casualties are then moved back to that company CCP we talked about earlier. All right, let's make our final jump forward. We are now at the forward edge of the battle area, in the section's fighting position. This is the point of contact. This is where individual soldiers meet the enemy. The front line itself is made up of section trenches, and these are not just random holes in the ground. They are meticulously sited. Each trench is dug in a zigzag pattern for extra protection, and it's typically spaced about 10 meters away from the next one. This spacing, along with carefully planned arcs of fire, makes sure that the sections can all support each other. No single part of the front is left uncovered. And this is the whole point of the entire layout. The orientation of every trench, the line of sight for every weapon, the placement of every single obstacle, it is all designed to do one thing: funnel the enemy into a killing zone. This is that spot on the ground where the commander plans to unleash the massed, interlocking firepower of the entire platoon to destroy the attacking force. So we've just built the entire architecture of a defensive position, from the battalion rear all the way to the section front. But now let's talk about why this actually matters. Not to a general, but to the individual soldiers sitting in that trench. You see, this isn't some abstract concept for commanders to draw on a map. For the soldier on the ground, this layout becomes a mental map. It becomes your lifeline for navigating total chaos. Knowing this map is what lets you move to get resupplied, to fall back to another position, or to get yourself or your buddy to medical aid when everything is going wrong. It is, quite simply, your key to survival. When it all boils down, your survival depends on burning 3 things from this map into your brain. First, you must know your route back. That means knowing the track plan like the back of your hand. Second, you have to know your rally points, those release points and rendezvous points where you link up with your unit. And third, you must know where the aid is. You have to know instinctively the route from your trench to the platoon CCP and from there to the company CCP. Because in the end, the plan is just lines on paper until it's tested. The real question is this: when you're exhausted, under fire, and in the dark, have you internalized this map well enough to follow it? Because knowing the architecture of your defense is knowing the path to survival.
All right, in this briefing, we are diving deep into one of the most challenging military maneuvers out there, the fighting withdrawal. We're going to break down how forces can reposition under enemy pressure without, well, getting destroyed.
You know, this is really the ultimate test of a commander's skill. How do you pull your people out of a firefight, move them, and get them set for the next phase, all without getting overrun? The answer to this is the difference between a smart, tactical move and just a total disaster. And make no mistake, getting this right is, quite literally, a matter of life and death. It's an incredibly high-stakes chess match, where one wrong move can have devastating consequences for everyone involved.
So how is this complex operation actually pulled off? Well, here's our game plan. We're going to break it down step by step. We'll start with why you'd even do this, then how to make a clean getaway. We'll define the key lines on the battlefield, and then get into the nitty-gritty of coordinating this complex ballet of moving parts.
Okay, first things first, and this is a big one. A withdrawal is not a retreat. A retreat is chaotic, it's disorganized, it's basically running away. A withdrawal, on the other hand, is a planned, deliberate, and controlled operation designed to gain some kind of advantage.
So a withdrawal can be a feint, right? You can use it to lure an enemy into a trap. Or maybe you just need to reposition your forces to a more defendable piece of ground. Sometimes you even pull back to set the stage for a future counterattack.
It's all about turning a tough situation to your advantage.
All right, now for what is maybe the most critical moment of any withdrawal. It's called achieving a clean break. If you can't cleanly disengage, if the enemy gets tangled up with your forces as you're trying to pull back, you're in for a world of hurt. That's how you end up in a running battle, and that is an absolute nightmare.
So a clean break is all about seizing back control of the situation. It's that decisive action where you, the commander, start dictating the terms of the fight again, even as you're moving away from it. You're preserving your force to fight another day.
So how do you actually make this happen? Well, commanders have a few tricks up their sleeves. You can use the cover of darkness or thick smoke. You can absolutely hammer the enemy with suppressive fire to keep their heads down while you slip away. Or you can pull back through pre-planned obstacles like minefields. The key, really, is to be unpredictable.
Now that we know how to make that break, let's talk about the map itself. To control a maneuver this complex, you need to have a crystal clear understanding of the, well, let's call it the geometry of the battlefield. It's all about these key lines.
Think of the FIBA as your main line of defense. It's that line in the sand where your main combat power is dug in. Everything is anchored to this line. Your fire support, your defensive plan, the whole shebang.
The FLOT, on the other hand, is much more fluid. It's the actual real-time front line. It marks the position of your most forward troops, your scouts, your observation posts, the ones who are often in direct contact with the enemy, and this line is constantly moving and shifting.
And the handover line. This is like the baton pass in a relay race. It's a specific, designated spot on the map where one unit officially hands over responsibility for the fight to another unit. This is what ensures a seamless, continuous defense.
Okay, with those key terms down, we can now tackle the main event, the passage of lines. This is the technical term for the complex maneuver of moving one unit through another friendly unit.
And there are two main flavors here. A rearward passage, where you're moving back through friendly lines to safety, and a forward passage, where you're moving fresh troops through a static unit to continue an attack. For our purposes today, we're focusing on that fighting withdrawal, the rearward passage of lines, or RPOL.
Now, pulling off an RPOL successfully is all about meticulous coordination and communication. It is a delicate dance between two units, one moving and one stationary, and every single step has to be perfectly synchronized. If it's not, you get chaos.
This is where it gets really interesting. On the whiteboard here, you can see how this all comes together. So, here's our stationary company's defense. The withdrawing platoon, let's say they're in blue, moves back toward this handover line. Once they cross it, they're met at a designated contact point by guides from the stationary unit. Those guides then physically lead them through these specific pre-cleared lanes, and they escort them all the way to a secure assembly area in the rear.
And this right here is just a masterclass in controlled chaos. Every element is carefully managed. The contact points are the meeting spots. The guides act as the local experts who know the safe paths. The lanes prevent friendly fire incidents and accidents. And checkpoints are used all along the way to track progress. It's a symphony of precision.
So, what's the big picture here? What's the commander ultimately trying to achieve with all these complex moving parts? Let's zoom out and look at the guiding philosophy behind it all.
It really all boils down to these three core principles. 1. Keep the plan brutally simple. Complex plans fall apart under pressure. 2. You have to get that clean break. No hesitation, no second thoughts. And 3. Be ready to fight back. You have to look for opportunities to hit the enemy, even as you're pulling away, to regain the initiative.
And this quote from the doctrine just hits the nail on the head. It is all about control and coordination between commanders. The entire goal of this intricate process is to preserve your combat power, to get your troops out of a tough spot so they can live to fight another day, on your terms.
And that brings us to the big million-dollar question for today's battlefield. In an age of drones, satellites, and sensors, an age of what some call ubiquitous surveillance, is a clean break even possible anymore? How will the art of the fighting withdrawal have to adapt and evolve to survive? That's the puzzle military strategists are trying to solve right now.
All right, tonight we're doing something a little different. We're not just going to talk about a topic, we're putting you right in the middle of it. This is your first hour in a defensive position, a place where every sound, every move, every single shovelful of dirt could be your last. Let's get into it.
And just like that, the tailgate slams shut. The truck's engine just fades into the night, and it leaves you in this unnerving quiet. Your boots are on the ground. This is it. The release point. The start line. From this moment on, you are on your own.
So, what's the objective? It's a pre-scouted trench line, somewhere up ahead in the pitch black. In getting there without being seen or heard, well, that's your first and maybe most critical test of the night.
Every single piece of your gear is muffled. There's absolutely no talking. The only sound you can hear is the wet suck of mud trying to pull the boots right off your feet. You know, this isn't just about being quiet. It's about completely erasing your presence from the battlefield. Then, something happens. A figure just emerges from the shadows. This is your guide, your link from the recon party. He knows the way through the dark, he knows the safe lanes. His signal is just a simple hand gesture. You fall in right behind him. Your life is now totally dependent on his silent expertise.
Look, the rules for movement here, they're not suggestions. They are absolute. You move in a single file, and you place your feet exactly where the person in front of you did. This minimizes noise, and it cuts down the chance of stepping on a tripwire, or worse, a mine. No light, no sound. Total discipline is really the only shield you have out here.
You've made it. You're at the position. There's a soldier there, barely visible, waiting for you. This is what's called the relief in place, and trust me, you are on the clock.
30. That's the number you need to remember. You have 30 seconds. That's it, not 31. 30 seconds to absorb every single critical piece of information you need to make it through the night. The pressure is just immense. There is no time for small talk, no time for questions, just listen.
In a rushed whisper, he gives you 4 things. 1, your arcs of fire, your left and right limits. 2, he shoves the range card into your hand, showing the distances to key targets. 3, he points out the friendly positions on your flanks. And 4, the taped route that leads back to platoon HQ. And then, poof, he's gone, melted back into the darkness. It's your hole now.
So he's gone. And now the urge, that first instinct, is to just grab a shovel and start digging, right? Wrong. That is a fatal mistake. Your survival, right now, depends on following a very strict, mandated sequence of tasks. It's called the priority of work.
See, this isn't some simple to-do list you can rearrange to suit yourself. This is doctrine, and it's born from some very hard lessons. It's ordered this way for a reason. Each step builds on the last, and it prioritizes what's going to keep you alive over what might make you comfortable. And this right here, this lays out the core logic perfectly. 1, security. 2, sighting. 3, camouflage. 4, digging. Did you catch that? Look what's dead last on the list. Digging. Before you even think about moving a single speck of dirt, you have to be able to see and you have to be able to fight. Let's break this down.
The very, very first thing you do is establish security. That means one of you gets on the gun and starts scanning your assigned arc of fire. Yeah, you're completely exposed, but believe me, an unseen enemy is far more dangerous than an incoming round. One person works, one person watches. Always.
All right, next up, sighting your primary weapon. Now, for a machine gun, this means hammering stakes into the ground to lock it in place. You've got to elevate it just right to achieve what's called grazing fire. That's a stream of bullets that flies perfectly parallel to the ground, maximizing the danger zone for any advancing enemy. You confirm your arcs with tape or sticks, and you start sketching out your own range card. Okay, security's up. Your weapon is sighted. Only now, finally, do you get to pick up that shovel. It's time to break ground.
But hold on, this is a crucial detail of what's called camouflage discipline. You don't just hack away at the ground. That creates a big, obvious pile of dark earth. Instead, you carefully cut the top layer of turf, the sod, and you set it aside. This living camouflage is going to be absolutely essential for covering your position later.
And this right here, this is your first goal. It's not some deep, fancy trench. It's this, a stage 1 shell scrape. All it is a hole just deep enough for you to lie down in the prone position and get your body below the level of incoming fire and shrapnel. It's all about immediate survivability.
So let's look at the evolution of your new home. You start with that shell scrape, about 2 meters long, just under half a meter deep. Its only purpose is to protect you while you're lying down. Once that's done, you keep going. You deepen it into a stage 2 fire trench, which is about armpit deep. That's what lets you stand and fight from a protected position. But as you're digging, as you're getting into that rhythm, you have to remember something. There's a new threat out there, a modern threat that changes everything about this age-old process. And this threat,
It really doesn't care how deep your hole is. Think about it. That pile of dirt you're creating, the spoil, it has a totally different temperature than the ground around it. To an enemy drone flying overhead with a thermal camera, it might as well be a giant glowing neon sign that just says, "I am here." Your biggest threat is now airborne.
So survival in that first hour now includes a whole new set of steps. You have to immediately cover that fresh soil with the turf you saved. You've got to work to build some kind of overhead cover, a drone cage made of wire or netting to break up your shape from above. You use thermal blankets to hide the heat from your gear. Camouflage isn't a one-and-done thing anymore. It's a constant, active process.
And just like that, your first hour is up. You're in the hole. You have security, you're camouflaged from the ground and from the air. But as you finally settle in and the adrenaline starts to fade, a new reality dawns on you. A defensive position is never, ever finished. It has to be constantly improved, deepened, reinforced. The work has only just begun.
All right, today we're cracking open the professional soldier's playbook for one of the most critical life-or-death skills out there, occupying a defensive position. And look, this isn't just about digging a hole in the ground. No, this is a meticulous science of survival, where a single, tiny mistake can be the difference between being a ghost and being a target. And that's the fundamental problem, right? You need to build a fortress, a strong point, but the very act of building it, the digging, the cutting, the moving dirt, it's like sending up a giant flare that screams to the enemy, "Hey, we're right here." So how do you get strong without getting seen?
Well, the answer isn't just about brute force or digging faster. It's about precision. It's a highly disciplined, almost ritualistic, 10-step doctrine that's been refined over decades of conflict. Every single step is designed to maximize your protection while practically turning you into a ghost. So, let's break it down. Step 1, the RP link-up. You know, the whole operation kicks off way before you even see the ground you're going to defend. It all starts at a prearranged spot called the release point, or just RP. Think of it as the formal start line for the whole occupation.
Now, an RP isn't just some random dot on the map. During the day, it's got to be something unmistakable, like a lone tree or a fork in the road. At night, it's an actual person, a guide from the advanced recon party, waiting there in the dark. This is that critical handshake, the exact moment a simple marching column breaks apart and reforms into a tactical fighting unit.
So, once that handshake is complete, the unit goes straight into step 2, the silent move. From that RP to the final defensive position, everything goes dark and silent. I mean everything. No talking, no white light, absolutely no radio chatter. Stealth is everything here.
And you know, there's a really clever two-sided reason for this. As the doctrine puts it, silence isn't just about hiding from the enemy, it's about being able to hear the enemy. When you blend into the background noise of the battlefield, you can suddenly pick out all those unnatural sounds, a snapping twig, a muffled cough, that tell you a threat is nearby.
Okay, so you've made it. You're in position, totally undetected. Now comes step 3, and it's the first huge decision you make on the ground, weapon sighting. This is where commanders physically walk the terrain and place each soldier, each machine gun, in the exact spot they're going to fight from.
And this is a real tactical puzzle with all these competing priorities. You need cover, obviously, but you also need a clear line of sight to shoot. You want maximum protection, but you have to avoid the obvious places, the lone building, the top of a hill, because the enemy is already trained to look for you there. Every single placement is a trade-off.
With all the positions now set, the unit moves to step 4, defining the arcs of fire. And this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It is a formal process that assigns every single soldier a very specific slice of the battlefield that they are responsible for covering with their weapon.
Each soldier literally sketches this out on something called a range card. They map out their left and right limits, they identify any dead ground where an enemy could hide from them, and they note key landmarks. Now, when you put all these individual cards together, their arcs interlock perfectly, creating this seamless wall of defensive fire with zero gaps.
All right, the plan is locked in. Now the physical work starts. But step 5, turf stripping, isn't about digging down just yet. It's actually about preserving the surface. Before a single shovel of deep earth gets moved, soldiers carefully, and I mean carefully, remove the top layer of ground. The grass, the leaves, the natural topsoil, they set it all aside.
And this right here, this is the absolute secret to becoming invisible. That turf you just saved, that's your camouflage. It's going to be used at the very end to put the natural skin back onto the finished position, basically erasing the scars of all your digging and making the fortification just melt back into the landscape.
Which leads us right to step 6, spoil management. Spoil is just the military term for all that dirt you've excavated. And let me tell you, nothing screams, "Hey, new enemy position here," like a pile of fresh, dark earth. It's a magnet for enemy eyes and bullets, so it has to vanish.
The process here is painstaking. Spoil gets dug onto a ground sheet so it doesn't stain the surrounding area. Any extra dirt is literally carried away and hidden in nearby bushes or dips in the ground. And then finally, that turf you saved is placed back on top of the parapet. It's like a magic trick in broad daylight. Now you see a fortification, now you don't.
So, with our plan for hiding the evidence in place, the real digging can finally begin. Step 7 is the Stage 1 dig, also known as the shell scrape. You should think of this as your oh crap shelter. If you suddenly make contact and you need cover right now, this is the very first thing you dig.
And you can see its purpose pretty clearly right here. It's just a simple, shallow, body-length trench pointed towards the enemy. It is not meant to be comfortable. It is designed for one thing and one thing only: to get your body below the level of incoming bullets and shrapnel as fast as humanly possible.
Now, once the immediate threat is gone and you have a bit more time, that basic shell scrape gets a major upgrade. This is Step 8, the Stage 2 dig, where you develop that shallow scrape into a proper fire trench. And we're talking about a serious excavation here. The doctrine calls for it to be at least armpit deep. This becomes the main position you're going to live in and fight from, and it offers you real, substantial protection from both direct fire and artillery.
So your position is now pretty well hidden from anyone on the ground. But what about from the sky? This brings us to a super important modern step, Step 9, OHC, or overhead cover.
I mean, let's face it, the modern battlefield is three-dimensional. Drones and all kinds of aerial surveillance have totally changed the game. A position isn't truly concealed unless it's hidden from above. So this means using natural tree cover, camouflage nets, and even bringing in extra branches to break up that telltale shape of a fighting position from the air. Okay, the position is dug, it's concealed, and it's ready for a fight. But there's one final crucial step. Step 10 isn't about digging or hiding. It's a state of mind, a state of immediate readiness called the stand to.
Think about it. When an attack happens, especially at night or in bad weather, your biggest enemy is often just chaos. The stand to is designed to beat that chaos. Every soldier has an exact spot right next to their trench where their weapon, helmet, and gear are perfectly laid out. When the alarm goes up, there's no thinking, no fumbling for gear. You just grab and go. It makes sure the response is fast, organized, and lethal.
And really, it all comes down to this one line from the doctrine, which basically justifies every single ounce of sweat that went into those 10 steps. To fight, you first have to survive. And survival on today's battlefield isn't always about who's the best shot. It's often about who is the best at hiding. The big takeaway is clear. In defense, painstaking, meticulous discipline, that's your best armor.
All right, listen up. This isn't a training exercise. We're talking about the clean break, how you get out of a hot position in one piece and without anyone knowing you were ever gone. Seriously, your life is going to depend on how well you pay attention right now.
You got to understand the enemy is watching. They've got drones in the air, listening posts dialed in. They're just waiting for one tiny mistake. And the second you make it, this whole thing turns into a disaster. So we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. The mission is simple, really. You need to just vanish. So the first step is becoming a ghost, and I mean that literally. Before you even think about moving, you have to learn how to be invisible. And this isn't just about good camouflage. It's about completely erasing yourself from every enemy sensor out there.
See, at night, sound is everything. It's your number one enemy. Every little click of your gear, a cough, even the rustle of your jacket, it travels. And just like you're listening, you better believe they are too. So, noise discipline, that's not a request, it's your lifeline. You gotta move slow, be deliberate, and be absolutely silent.
Now let's talk about their eyes in the sky, thermal drones. These things see heat. They see your body heat, the heat from your weapon barrel, even the fresh dirt you just dug out of your trench glows like a light bulb to them. So what do? We cloak it.
we mask every single heat source. The whole idea is to make our position look cold, dead, and empty. We might even leave behind a few dummy heat signatures, maybe a battle noise simulator, just to sell the lie long after we're gone.
Okay, phase 2 is all about thinning the line. And this starts way before you get the final order to move. It's all about making yourself smaller, lightening your load, and getting ready for a quick, quiet getaway.
Look, you can't move fast and quiet if you're loaded down like a pack mule. So earlier in the day, you're going to quietly pack up all the non-essentials. Your sleeping bag, extra chow, all of it. That stuff gets moved back. And while you're doing that, you're running the route in your head over and over. You need to know the path from your trench to the first checkpoint like the back of your hand, so you can do it in total darkness without making a sound.
All right, this next part is the absolute heart of the whole operation. We call it the chain of RVs. See, your path to safety isn't just one mad dash into the darkness. Nope, it's a series of short, planned movements between safe spots, these rendezvous points. Think of it like a chain that pulls us all back to safety, together.
So you're not just stumbling around blind, right? You're moving down a pre-planned, rehearsed, safe lane. The whole time, you're moving from one secure point to the next, linking up at these specific spots. Each one of those spots is another link in that chain that's pulling you back to the rear.
It all kicks off with a single code word, probably whispered down the line. Whiskey. That's it. That's your signal. You quietly slip out of your position and head for the section RV. And your section commander, he's going to be right there, physically counting heads as you come through. 1, 2, 3, making sure he's got everyone.
Next up, you'll get the word Scotch. That means you're moving to the platoon RV. This is where your section meets up with the rest of the platoon. Now, you don't just hang out. The second you get there, you're setting up a perimeter, covering your arc, because you are absolutely still in the fight. Then your section commander reports up. One section, all accounted for.
And the last big move? That's on the code word champagne. Now we're talking. The whole platoon moves together as one unit to the company release point. This has to be perfectly coordinated, and when you get there, a guide's going to be waiting. That's your link up, your handshake with the rest of the company.
Now, let's be real clear about something. None of this, not a single part of it, works if we start losing people along the way. The entire system is built on one single idea: 100% accountability all the time.
And this is super important. You got to know the difference between a checkpoint and an RV. Think of a checkpoint like a turnstile at a stadium. You just get counted as you pass through. You don't stop. But an RV, that's like a waiting room. You get there, you halt, you get reorganized, and you set security before the next leg of the journey. You mix those two up, you're asking for chaos.
I mean, the official doctrine really nails it. It says the RV is where the commander gets physical control back. He can literally put a hand on your shoulder, check that everyone's there, and make sure the whole group is ready and organized for the next move. It's how we stay in control when everything's dark and confusing.
Yeah, think of it like leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for ourselves. Your section commander counts you out of the trench. Then at the company checkpoint, the sergeant major's there physically counting you again, and finally, your platoon's second in command, he confirms the final tally with the CSM. See? Every soldier is tagged at every key point. Every single leader is making sure nobody gets left behind.
So this is it. This is the end game. All that planning, all that discipline, every silent step you took, it all leads to this one moment. A successful total disengagement. The clean break.
And get this. Before your platoon commander leaves, he's going to personally walk the line. He's going to check every single empty fighting position himself to make damn sure it's empty. No people, no important gear. The last person to leave is the one who's responsible for making sure everyone else got out first.
Finally, the last code word you need to know is RUM. That's the signal that goes up to Company HQ, and it means one thing: our platoon is off the objective, everyone's accounted for, and we've made it safely to the company RV. The job is done, you've vanished.
So you've made it. You're safe. But think about this. That whole deception plan you were a part of, it's still running. Right now, the enemy is probably staring at those dummy heat sources, maybe listening to those battle simulators, getting all hyped up to attack a bunch of empty holes in the ground. What you just did wasn't just an escape, it was an attack. You just wasted their time, screwed with their intel, and set them up for whatever we've got planned next. Pretty cool, huh?